Good morning. Going to talk about secondary growth now. A while ago we did the primary growth, but now we're going to do the secondary growth. So, before we hit that, though, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the seasonal growth cycles. I'm fairly certain you're familiar with these, but they're just another way to classify plants. So, the three different ways that we classify your plants are they can be an annual, a biennial, or a perennial plant. So an annual plant is going to complete its life cycle in one growing season. So from seed to seed in one growing season. Um, so with these, generally you've got to plant them every year. If you want more of them, you've got to plant them every single year. Um, Annuals, some examples would be like weeds or wildflowers, some vegetables, are going to be annuals. You've got your biennials, which are going to take two growing seasons to complete their growth. And then the very last type is going to be a perennial plant. So these guys are going to have some sort of structure that usually goes dormant, and that allows that particular plant to live year after year. So a lot of our plants are these, like our trees. They kind of go through that hibernation dormant stage during the winter, but they've still got living structures that are still there to allow for the growth to occur. There's two different types of perennial plants. You've got herbaceous plants and woody plants. Herbaceous plants are going to have things underneath the ground like rhizomes or tubers or corms or something that's going to allow those particular plants to live on. And then the woody plants are going to have underground and above ground structures that live on. So it might have a root system with with a tree trunk, for example, or some of our bushes are going to have those woody stems above ground too. So that kind of goes through the different growth cycles. Alrighty, so just kind of a little refresher since it's been a little while, but primary growth is when the plant is growing upwards, so you're gaining height. So you've got your root forming, and and you've got some initial height growth from that shoot apical meristem and some of the lateral buds. So, oftentimes this will. Oh, just kidding. We haven't moved on. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my other notes. All right, so that's primary growth. Secondary growth now is what we're going to talk about. And this is when your plant grows wider. So this is how you get the widening of your stems and your roots. Is through the secondary growth. So primary growth is height, secondary growth is width. So with secondary growth, you get your stem still elongating because even though it's secondary growth, primary growth still occurs during the secondary growth also, so it's happening at the same time. You're still going to get some leaves, then flowers, then fruits and seeds, and then it's going to either die or go into dormancy. So, and then it's going to get the stem, if it's going on, it's going to get wider. So, oftentimes, secondary growth is going to occur during the spring and the summer. Autumn is when it's going to start going through that dormancy, starting to get prepared to go through the hibernation if it's a perennial plant, or it's just starting to shut down and die if it's an annual. plants. So alrighty. Okay. So with your secondary growth, what happens is your primary tissues, your primary xylem and your primary phloem become separated. You probably wondered, maybe you didn't, why I kept calling it primary xylem and primary phloem. And that's because we now have secondary xylem and secondary phloem. So your primary xylem and phloem get separated during this particular growth period, and so you'll get the secondary xylem and phloem growing in between this primary xylem and phloem. So making sure that I'm not forgetting anything here. Okay, on to the fun parts. The vascular cambium. This is kind of a layer of cells that they're meristematic, so they can produce more cells. They're of the meristem type, so they're going to make other types of cells. I guess it would be a better word. So with this particular part, it's going to divide forwards and backwards. So it's going to produce cells towards the inside or the center of that stem or root. It's also going to produce cells towards the outside of the root or the stem. So we call it just inside or outside of that vascular cambium. So there's two different types of initial cells. You've got your vascular cambial fusiform cells, and you've got your vascular cambial ray initial cells. So you've got both, and I'll tell you the difference. The ray initial, these guys are going to generate cells in the radial direction, which I've got a picture here in a moment. With your ray initial cells, they're going to produce parenchyma cells only. So when they go inside and outside, they're only going to give rise to parenchyma cells. We'll talk in a moment about your rays, but you can get phloem rays generating off of these. So, actually, I think we'll talk more about it tomorrow, actually. But this is going to, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but your phloem rays are going to help your vascular cambium enlarge itself, so that way it doesn't burst. So if you were to take some of these particular cells, these ray initial cells, if you were going to slice them in a cross section or a transverse view, they're going to look circular like, because these are going to be your longer elements, like your hold on, they're going to be like yours. Give me a second. You're going to have like your companion cells and sieve tube elements and vessel elements. Those, so I just wanted to make sure. So those things that are longer. Your fusiform initial cells, they are going to make cells in an axial direction. So they're going to be going up and down. So I'm sorry, I got that backwards, didn't I? Your fusiform are going to be your longer vessel tube elements. Sorry. So they're going to be the cylinder ones. I'm sorry. The ray initial cells, those are going to be your parenchyma cells. So those are going to be like square shaped. If you were to take a cross section, those will be side by side. So if you look on the back side of the drawings that I did not draw, I believe it says page 68. You can kind of see there the differences between the two. The top layer there, it's kind of showing you the vascular cambium. There's that circle, and then they've taken the cross section of those, and these guys are going to be your companion cells and sieve tube elements and vessel elements. Elongated, I think is what I call them. And they're going to produce cells in the axial direction, which is up and down. And then below, you've got your ray initial cells. Those are the square ones that are going to give rise to parenchyma cells. And these guys are going to be square shaped. If you were to take a cross section of those, they're going to be more square shaped or cube shaped. So kind of gives you an idea there. So when your vascular cambium is going through that secondary growth, it's going to produce the secondary xylem, and that's going to be pushed towards the inside. So you're going to be making vessel elements and tracheids and fibers if you're the fusiform initial. And if you are of the ray initial generating cells, you're going to be making parenchyma cells. Because we need to be able to go side by side lengthwise, but since you're also growing taller, you also need to be able to go up and down too. So that's why we've got the two different initials. And then if you have secondary phloem, that's going to be produced to the outside of that vascular cambium. And then this is going to be made up of the sieve tube elements, the companion cells, some fibers, some vessel elements. Sorry, not vessel elements, just fibers and parenchyma cells. I looked down at the diagram there and saw vessel elements and thought that. So kind of going backwards, I should have mentioned this back with the secondary xylem back up here under the ray initial. Once you start getting secondary xylem, you're going to start getting wood production in your stem. So now this is not growth in the root. Just so you're aware of that, this does not cover growth in the root at all. So if you look, okay, so if you look on the, so flip your page of your drawing that I did not draw. It's page 66. That's the front side there. I guess it's the back side. So this is another picture of your vascular cambium there. That's going through your primary xylem and phloem, those vascular bundles there. And so this is showing you your vascular cambial initial cell there. So since it's capable of mitosis, it's going to go ahead and split. And then that's that next layer down. However, it's not going to turn into secondary xylem and secondary phloem, because you still have to hold on to one of those vascular cambial cells. So one half is going to become the primary xylem or phloem, and the other side is still going to stay that vascular cambial initial. So then that vascular cambial initial is going to go through another division, and again, one side has to remain the vascular cambial initial cell, and then the other side will be producing the opposite. So if we made phloem first, we'll make xylem on the other side. And it's going to keep going through that whole production until you have widened in girth, like that's showing. So obviously the two closest to the vascular cambial initial are going to be the newest, and the ones furthest from it will be the oldest. So this kind of goes through a little bit of that secondary growth there. So I've got a couple of different ways to look at it. On the front side of the drawings that I've given you, I've kind of outlined how those different vascular cambial cells, both the ray and fusiform, what they're going to give rise to. So I've kind of given you another way to look at that if this is still a little confusing. So tomorrow we'll finish up the secondary growth. Will go into some of the problems that your plants have to go through in order to make sure that they don't explode, and then we'll go into a little bit on what the secondary growth looks like from the root point of view, because it's slightly different, but not by much. And then we'll hit the different types of wood classification. So, and then Thursday, I think you're supposed to be here all week. If you're not, let me know. Thursday, we're going to go more into the wood anatomy. And then Friday, we'll have that quiz over everything. Oh, I'll probably not stick the wood anatomy from Thursday, this coming Thursday, on your quiz, but I will stick the fruits and the secondary growth on there. So, as I'm kind of looking ahead, then we'll do a little bit of tree biology for you on Friday, and we'll see how long that takes us, if it takes us 1 or 2 days to get through that. And then I've got 1 or 2 to 3 lectures on taxonomy, and then 1 on I'm looking here, maybe. And I think I've got 1 more on, nope, I skipped it. Maybe that's it. That might be it. Nope, just kidding. Then there's 1 on the theory of evolution in regards to land plants. So right now, it kind of looks like you might have your test Friday or Monday, depending on when you want it. So just keep in mind that whenever you have that unit test over this third unit, the week after, I guess we could make it a day later. If you wanted to make it Monday, we could make it the following Tuesday. That'll be the week later will be your final. So just, again, don't forget to tell me if you haven't already told me when your other finals are, so I don't make it on the same day. So hopefully this all makes some sense. If it doesn't, feel free to ask questions. And like I said, we'll finish this up tomorrow, and have a good day.